The thing with material is that it offers resistance and obstacles. I mean, they're a hassle, but they're helpful. You know, having these restraints or coming up against problems, that's all part of the process. My name is Fiona Tan, and I'm an artist and filmmaker. I come from a generation where I've grown up with both, the digital and the analog, and where I appreciate both. Each carrier, each medium has its own sound, its own color, its own grain. It also asks for a different kind of camera movement, a different way of filming. And they have each a different size because of the different sort of the materiality of each medium. I like them all. They all have their good sides and their bad sides, but they all have their own kind of aesthetic. I quite often like working across this border between digital and analog. So, you know, the analog films, there were scans, and I'm looking at them in a computer first. And then it's interesting for me to take them back into this analog world of the old inks and all these techniques which are tried and tested. And I did that in an earlier project. The last project I did here was views of a building which I had designed and built inside the computer, so it didn't exist. But we printed it with this old technique, which almost like made the building real. And I like that sort of crossover between impossible and real and physical and not physical. I'm trying to make proof prints for a series of 6 prints. I'm working with old film stills from the Dutch film archives. In early cinema, often black and white film was coloured, either by putting it in a colour bath or even coloured by hand. Because they're working so small on a very small piece of film, it's quite hard for them to colour in, so the colour tends to dance around. I thought that it was really strikingly beautiful, and so that inspired me to actually be trying to translate that into a printing process where we're working with 2 plates, and one is black and white, the other one's coloured, and I'm colouring it by hand also. And there's a certain sort of hit and miss approach to the whole thing as well. I've chosen 6 of these images, which are, to an extent, quite sort of archetypal. I mean, there's a windmill in there, and but there's always something else going on as well. And I've kind of fallen in love with these images. the series that we're working on now is a sort of like two images on top of each other. So there's the color inside, floating almost on top of the black and white original image. And that's the struggle, to find the right balance between those two and to figure out how to treat the color and just technically how to get the best results. So it's always a bit of a struggle, but that's part of the journey.
Might be a bit Indian yellow in there and raw sienna down here. Pretty sure.
I think there's something very important about having material that you can have in your hands and that you can see what you're doing and feel and smell it, you know, that's all. And, you know, rub your fingers around in it or get your paintbrush wet. That's all, I think, quite important. That's probably the reason why I'm here now in this workshop, working here with very material things, with quite an old-fashioned technique. Figuring out how to print and then coming up against problems, that's all part of the process. You know, having these restraints or realizing that, you know, black ink is black and that's not going to give you every single color in the rainbow, and it's not, you know, that means a sort of a confinement, and within that I have to find a way, and that's quite helpful actually, to have these restrictions, because that makes you more creative within the limitations of the material.